X-Men 97 is good. If you haven't heard it from every single other person on the internet, I'm here to provide yet another video example about this show being very good. Now, I was a skeptic of this show. I wasn't someone who had any nostalgia for the 90s cartoon. To me, it was a thing that existed. It was a little bit before my time, and I had other X content coming out that took my focus. When 97 was announced, I was worried that it was just going to be a nostalgia trip for the millennials who grew up with it. A lot of times when these revival shows happen, they feel like they exist only for that initial reaction, that, oh my god, iCarly is coming back. Childhood complete. Then the shows come out, and nobody you've ever met in real life has seen them. They are the very definition of a co-worker show. And admittedly, I was getting the same vibe from this show. And with the MCU's insistence on capitalizing on that 90s nostalgia by throwing the theme into projects like Doctor Strange and Ms. Marvel, I really did think this was just going to be set up for an eventual MCU crossover. In fact, back in my DC animation video, I said pretty much exactly that. And look, I'm not above it. I can own up to it. I was very wrong. This show fucking rocks. It is everything that I have ever wanted from an X-Men project. This show has radicalized me. I want to double or triple the amount of animated projects coming out of Marvel and DC. Animation just seems like the definitive way to translate comic books. The colors, the movement, it's all so perfect for the X-Men. They managed to do the coolest shit you have ever seen with every character at a different point. And I really think that that's only possible in animation. If you're like me, a 2000s baby, your exposure to X-Men was the films and maybe some cartoons like Wolverine and the X-Men. And those projects are very famous for being the Wolverine show featuring X-Men. Not only is Wolverine the main focus of those projects, but him and Professor X are pretty much the only ones who have any personality. Some of my favorite mutants are in those films, and they almost always get the shaft in one way or the other. How the hell do you make Storm lame? This should be nearly impossible. In this show, however, the main focus is on the team. Everybody gets some play. Sure, some of them are more important than others, but it's no secret if you've been on the internet that this show has single-handedly saved the reputation of Scott Summers. He gets to do some of the sickest shit you have ever seen, and he only has the one power. It's a testament to the show's creativity that they can use Cyclops in different and interesting ways all the time, and that extends to pretty much everyone on the roster. Typically, when it comes to the X-Men, my favorite characters are the ones with just one power that they have to use in a bunch of creative ways. If you're a fan of any of these mutants, there will be at least one point in the show where you start convulsing in your seat from all the epic baconness of it all. Another really great aspect of the show is that the 90s cartoon is not required viewing at all. Sure, it might provide some context, but they did a great job keeping it separate enough to not isolate new fans who aren't familiar, like me. Now, for the rest of this review, I'm gonna jump into some more spoiler-heavy thoughts, so if you haven't seen the show and you don't want any spoilers, I would recommend leaving exactly right now. Okay? Cool. Now, my favorite X-Man has always been Nightcrawler, and I was really let down when I started the show because he wasn't on the original roster. But when he joined the team halfway through, I was bounding around my living room like a woodland bunny. But while I think this show is peak and easily one of the best things Marvel has ever put out, there are just a few small things I wasn't in love with. The main thing there is the villain. I felt like everything with Bastion was a bit much. The idea of the human sentinels was definitely cool and led to some really eerie moments, but it was kind of convoluted, and his backstory wasn't really fleshed out enough for me to have stake in the conflict. I think they could have just simplified his backstory and ambitions a little bit, as I never really bought his reasoning for wanting to genocide mutants when he himself is a mutant. Now, I know there's some subtext there about his refusal to accept the fact that he is a mutant, but it still isn't as clear as I might have liked. The other thing I wasn't in love with was when the X-Men are divided. The show sets up that some of the X-Men don't agree with Professor X's old ways, especially after the attack on Genosha. which I thought was really interesting to do for the show. In the final few episodes, we see Rogue and Sunspot actually join up with Magneto, choosing to leave humanity behind and leave them without any power. Which leads us to this confrontation where we have some of our heroes on both sides. But I felt like the X-Men kind of forgot that Rogue and Sunspot had turned on them in the next episode. In the next one, everyone's just kind of working together the whole time like nothing happened. If you're gonna set these conflicts up, I kind of just wish they'd follow through with it more. If they had a change of heart, or if it's just because there were bigger fish to fry, that's fine. But someone's gotta say that, because as it stands, they were all a little too cool with Rogue and Sunspot turning on them, but again, all of those are pretty small issues in the grand scheme of things. I don't claim to be an X-Men expert. I know they have one of the messiest histories in comics, so maybe they're just using a bit more nuance than I'm used to. The point remains that the show is so peak. Every time you think you've seen the coolest of the cool, something comes along to top it. And the show does cameos, but it does them well. Like, they exist to expand the universe, but they don't take away from the story at all. I'm not made of stone. I can't help but jump up and down and pee my pants when I see Doctor Doom. It's never gonna happen. And they have actual stakes. Killing off Gambit halfway through was a stroke of genius, because when I was watching the finale, I was actually thinking, damn, any one of these people could die. Magneto is sick as hell and has some of the rawest quotes I've ever heard.
Do not make me let you down. Oh, how I've waited to say these two words to you, old friend. Shut up.
We are not gods, Magnus.
Gods abandon those who believe in them. Mutants do not.
Cyclops has crawled his way out of a terrible public perception that James Marsden put him in. And I'm not blaming you, James Marsden, it's just I'm taking it out on you because I'm really mad at he who shall not be named. Storm gets to be sick, Rogue gets to be sick, literally everyone here is rad as hell. Except this bozo. God, this motherfucker and his fuck-ass eyebrows just bothered me. X-Men 97 does not hold back with its commentary at all. It is aggressive with its messaging, and I think that's so cool. It feels like a very modern progression for these characters. Magneto is interesting because the more time goes on in the real world, the harder it is to prove him wrong. Mutants will probably never truly be accepted in this world. They will always be persecuted, and if humanity won't accept them, maybe it is better to leave them behind. But that's not what the X-Men are about. They are idealists. They believe in coexistence because they have to, not because it's realistic. That's what makes them heroes. They will fight for a better world even if they never get to see it. The show just gets it. Sometimes you come across a perfect adaptation, one that just gets the characters at the cellular level. They don't have to be the most accurate to the source material or have the best suits, but they capture the soul and the essence of these larger-than-life characters. X-Men 97 is right up on the top shelf. It's the X-Men adaptation to beat now. I hope we get tons more seasons and we get to see all of our favorite X-Mans. For me, give me Kitty Pryde or give me death. I would love for this to kick off a new era of superhero animation. We're off to a good start with My Adventures with Superman and this. Let's hope Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Batman Cave Crusader, and Creature Commandos have even half the amount of heart that X-Men 97 has. But what about you? What superhero do you want to see get the animated treatment? For me, the answer is Marvel's First Family. A universe-trotting adventure with these four in animation would be the best thing I've ever seen. Let me know what yours would be, and be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you support mutant rights. Oh, one more quick thing. Can we not put Scott in the condom suit anymore? His first suit was so godly. Alright, thanks, bye.
Tell me where Victor is. Come on, bub, for old time's sake, huh?
Did you just call me Blob?